Hey there, everybody. It's Road to Recovery. Today I'm going to be talking about how my dad got me started on porn. Man, I wish I could have a stiff drink for this one. Stay tuned. I grew up in the 80s. It was a time of Ronald Reagan, new wave music, Rambo, John Hughes movies, and of course, porn. Despite the lack of an internet, porn was everywhere. It was on VHS. It was on my scrambled TV shows. And of course, there was the porn magazine. Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, Club, We, High Society. And that's just the stuff I'm pulling off of the top of my head. Despite not even being an adult, I had access to some of the hottest sex mags that you'd ever seen. And I had one person to thank for all of it. My dad. My dear father loved his porn. He kept a gigantic stack of porn in his bedroom, and some in his office, which happened to be in our house. He even had some VHS tapes. It was through my VCR where I got to the bottom of Deep Throat and discovered what was deviling Mrs. Jones. In retrospect, it's insane to think about the amount of porn my dad actually had. He would go through it every few months and just get rid of it and get some more. And like a thrifty teenager, I swooped in to scoop it up out of the trash. Nothing gets wasted on my watch. I wasn't the only person who had a porn-happy dad. My close friend's dad liked porn too. His dad threw his Penthouse magazine under his mattress. Good Catholics they were. They kept all the best issues of Penthouse, including the Pet of the Year and the occasional Penthouse letters. Porn was everywhere. It so saturated the culture that I could literally stumble across it upon the side of the road. As a matter of fact, several of my porn stashes were created entirely from roadside finds. I would be riding my bicycle through the backwoods and bam, find a stash discarded on the side of the road. How rude. Well, waste not, want not. Might as well add it to the collection. There were days I never left my room in the summer. I'd fap till I was so tired that I couldn't even move. In my foggy malaise, I was so content that I didn't want to do anything else. Now, when I reflect on the type of person my dad is, I see the image of him in his 40s, stressed out of his mind and frequently yelling at my mom. He smoked, he drank. He often kept to himself when he wasn't working. He'd work himself into anxiety attacks. It's interesting that despite his obvious dependency on pornography through my own firsthand knowledge of his actions, I never really think of him in terms of his sexual addiction. I always saw the other side of him, the side he kept public. Sometimes charming, sometimes brooding. He kept up his outer facade very well. He never, to my knowledge, had any discussions of sex with me. But there was this one time where he let me in. I had just returned from college, and I was trying to get myself set up on an internship. So I stayed at home with my folks. My dad somehow figured out that I had been looking at naked pictures on his PC. He asked me in the most backdoor manner how I did it. He said, your uncle wants to know how somebody can get access to dirty pictures. I was internally laughing. Jesus, Dad, really? Yeah, my uncle is a dirty old man. I remember one time staying at his house and I found a stack of magazines that rivaled my dad's. The brothers were certainly in the same league and were dirty old men. But blaming this on my uncle was a hilarious new low. Back in those days, most of the good stuff was on news groups, so I had to give him vague instructions of how someone might go about getting these pictures without sitting down and giving him the exact details. But the bizarre reality was that I was coaching my dad on how to download porn. What do you even do with a memory like that? It's not like bonding over fishing or driving your first car. It's really odd. When I think about the person my dad is, about the anxiety attacks, keeping to himself, having mood swings, I begrudgingly have to admit that I kind of turned into him, minus the smoking, of course. And now, my dad isn't a horrible person. He was just a wreck and trying to cope. He didn't have any tools to help him through this madness, and unfortunately, I had to go through the same hell before I could find my own ways of dealing with anxiety. Healthy ways. However, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And the thought of that really kills me. I remember some of the negative aspects about my dad, and I can remember saying to myself at a very early age, man, I hope I don't turn out like that. But shit, I kind of did. I like to think of myself as being a considerate person, a person of compassion and sympathy, traits my father seemed to lack. I may not be an identical copy, but more of a blurred facsimile. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if my dad wasn't a porn addict. Would things have been different? Would I have still been hoarding porn that I had found on the side of the road? Would I have been looking at X-rated movies and pictures online in my adult years? Would porn still be a part of who I was? I guess dwelling on that now is time lost that I can never recover. All I can do now is focus on the person I am, on the things I've learned and the lessons that I have had to endure. Many of the things that have happened to me since my childhood weren't my fault, and the poor decisions I've made carry much of their influence from my father's own behavior patterns. But I don't have to keep on living this way. I've broken that cycle, and I can make my own patterns, ones that I can nurture and ones that can sustain me. This is Road to Recovery. Thank you for listening today. Please subscribe if you like the content. If you have your own crazy family stories regarding pornography, post them in the comments below. Have a good day and stay on the path to recovery.